Learning Curve podcast.
Back with episode number 4 of the Learning Curve.
I don't think we have numbers yet, but go ahead.
Well, all right. I want to start off with the biggest thing that we got to before the last episode to now. We have a name.
We have a name.
We do.
So we're sticking to this name. What's the name?
Learning Curve. Okay. At least for now.
For
the next 24
curve,
hours.
or is it like the learning curve?
I think we'll work on it.
We'll work on it?
I think we'll work on it. Learning Curve.
Because apparently that's a big deal. It worked for Facebook. They went from
did.
the Facebook to Facebook.
They did. That's right.
Right.
It's maybe that just like the 3 letters could make a big difference.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, just getting there was really hard for us. So we've been through like I think three different names right now, right? Already 3 names, 3 different logos. We have a brand new logo. I don't know if we're gonna debut it.
Well, he's working on it still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is progress, and it's just about little steps.
I mean, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the process, right? Learning as we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's gonna segue into my opening bit here tonight.
Oh, you have a bit? Go ahead.
I do. So the difference between consistency and slow progress rather than going gung-ho like I normally do with things, right? Because that's what I normally do.
Yeah.
Right, full-fledged, and then just not being able to maintain that over a long course of time, right?
Okay.
Consistency.
You have my attention now. You definitely have my attention. Go on.
All right. So
Let's talk about the consistency of you showing up on time.
because
That has not happened yet
No.
in any of these recordings.
Listen, what we're saying is consistent. I'm closer to the time. You know what I mean? Okay. Originally it was 9 o'clock. Now I think I got here like 8:05.
8:05.
We're supposed to be here at 7. Eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well, you're getting there. You're closing the gap.
Exactly.
Okay.
See, that's what it's about. That's what I'm learning. As I've gotten older, because my entire life, no matter what it was, whether it was the gym, whether it was like a business project, whether it was anything, it was always, okay, how can I do it as much as possible, the best way possible? I can't start until it's perfect.
As
rather
hard as
than
possible.
As hard as possible, right?
Yeah.
I can't just go to the gym. I have to go to the gym for 5 hours and then not go for the rest of the week because everything hurts. Right? Or just go for 2 days or for a week and then I lost 5 pounds. I think it's a success. And then I'm eating cheesecake on Sunday.
Yes.
Right? So I'm learning this as I get older. I think it's your nature to want to do things, and at least if you're like me, where you're impatient, you want to get to the end result.
I think that is a very common trait in the modern world. We're impatient. We want things done now, and the person we are when we do that, right, is when we have all the energy, when we have all the motivation, and then we destroy ourselves, and then the future version of us is like, fuck you, I'm tired,
Yeah.
I am not getting up right
Yeah.
now, right? And we forget that growth and success in general is done in small steps. It's not done in this like macho aggro, like I'm gonna fucking lift, I'm gonna deadlift and not warm up because I'm the best. There's a lot of ego into it, especially with men. I think it's a very male trait.
You think so?
I think it's a very male trait.
I mean, I think it's kind of around I think it's a generational thing more so. I feel like older generations, if you go back to like our parents, they know that it's going to be hard and they're willing to put in all the work. They're it's like it's an end goal thing.
I don't know.
And they plan better as opposed to now it's like we see it on, like I'll see a YouTube thing about fitness. And I'm like, 100 push-ups a day and 90 miles. Yeah, I'm in. And what supplements? Whatever. I'm buying it. Like that's me instantly. If it's Apple Pay, even worse because I'm just.
I don't know if I would. So I would not put that as a generational thing.
No. Okay.
That because I would because I think I still see that what you're calling what we're describing is called grit. That level of grit, like I'm gonna fucking tough it out and do it. And we tend to associate it with younger people, but I think it's more accurately when you associate it with like poor people, immigrants, people who are not spoiled.
Yeah, like Joey Diaz said, the immigrant mentality.
The immigrant mentality, right? The immigrant. Joey Diaz, I don't know who that is.
You know who Joey Diaz?
Nah, I have no idea.
All right, that's homework number 2. You
That's
didn't do
homework
last
number
week's
2?
homework,
Oh my
but you
God.
can do this week's homework.
Joey
Diaz
I better
is,
not become some like right-wing lunatic. After
No, he's a
listening to
Cuban
Joe Rogan and these
American,
books.
Cuban American, sounds Italian. He was in The Sopranos, big fat guy. Very funny. You look him up. But he always calls it the immigrant mentality, right?
I just don't. I don't want to turn into a right-wing.
No, he's not right. Dude, he's like, he's.
I hope not.
He's a felon.
I hope
He's a
not.
convicted
I don't
felon.
know.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Right wing. What part?
But what we were talking about that I think a couple of weeks ago, which was I always say the older generation, like our parent, like my dad is tougher than me, and I know that, and I'm okay with that, right?
Well, I'm 100% sure that your dad is tougher than you. I can vouch for your dad.
Right.
You're a pampered little American-born little bitch.
Listen, hold
okay?
on. No.
I don't want a job. I don't want a 9 to 5.
No, wait. Not me. Look, I'll ask Daniel. Daniel, immigrant, right?
Yeah.
Are you tougher than your son? Honestly,
He's tougher than his son.
You are,
because he gave his son a better life.
Okay.
Right? So he had it harder, and he's making his son's life easier.
Okay, good.
Your dad, an immigrant, came here. He made your life easier.
Okay.
Now, my parents also did the same, but I got here as an immigrant.
That doesn't. What?
Did you have to go through the Mexican border?
You don't even remember doing that.
I know.
Carried you. Your mom is here today. I wish you could turn the camera right now. You were carried across the border.
First of all, that's not how it happened.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you walked. I'm sorry. You were like 2-year-old Juan is swimming across.
No, there's actually a real story. First of all, I am a formerly illegal immigrant.
Okay.
So I'm instantly canceled by the right there.
Huh?
Instantly canceled.
You see, this is the migrant problem that I have.
Right.
This is why.
Instantly canceled. No, I had to pretend to be somebody else's kid.
You were pretending to be somebody
So
else's
you
kid?
go through immigration. I think they had fake documents at the time or whatever. But you go through immigration. I'm a brown boy. My mom is very white looking.
Yes.
And so I had to pretend to be somebody else's son. I also had to be asleep. So I was already asleep.
You were fake sleeping?
I was like a 2-year-old, so I was asleep.
Oh, so you were not part of this. You weren't actively acting or like pretending to do anything.
No, but my mom is much better at telling the story. There's
'cause you did nothing.
There's like robbery.
She did everything.
She did do.
You were just coincidentally there. You were a baby.
You know what?
right.
I can't even justify it.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I got a deep cut on my foot, and I started throwing. I have a scar on my foot. Okay, it's a real thing. Okay.
Yeah. Like stolen valor. You know what? That's what you're doing.
Stolen
right now.
valor.
This is
I
stolen
was
valor.
there. Did
No.
you go through the
No,
border?
you're like saying
Did
that's
you go? Look, if you, I can at least claim I came through the border. I'm not at. Look, I'm Mohau. I'm not that Mohau. Okay. I'm damp.
He's damp.
I'm damp. Okay.
You're
I'm
like-
not sweating like the people going through the. I'm damp. I'm just a light jog. I did
that
a light
is
jog.
one step removed from the kid who's like, dad was like a decorated military guy and did all these cool things.
And
you're
I
like,
did,
I'm
like,
the son of that guy who did all this.
No.
pretty
I'm more
much-
like I did RTOC, like that.
Yeah.
I did
High school?
RTOC,
The
but
flag?
I pretend like I'm a big military guy. That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, good. I'm glad you
It's
realized.
still like adjacent. Like you got to give me the credit.
yeah,
You gotta give me the-
technically, on a technicality.
It's like I joined the military, but okay, I don't want to. I'm not gonna shit on the military. I was gonna say like I did I joined the.
This is like, all right, fine. On a technicality,
I'm
you
on a
get away with it.
technicality, like, look, I'm part of the armed forces, okay? I'm part of the National Guard.
Yeah.
Not that they do anything bad. I'm just saying, like,
the
it's
color
different
guard.
levels. I didn't get sent abroad.
Yeah,
I didn't,
that's like you're a police officer technically, but you're actually a meter maid. Right? Technically, you're part
those
of
are
the
full
NYPD.
officers, man. That's fucked
Yeah.
up.
All right.
Fucked
Well,
up.
point is,
I'm all
kind
out
of
of line.
circling back though, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I will give you credit. Fine. Is that I think it's actually that's kind of the way things, the natural progression of things, right? But also acknowledge that as the generations move forward, I do think there's definitely a softening of the generations, which gets back to the reason I brought this up.
There is a softening of the generations.
Right.
And I think because you have kids, Daniel has kids.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
It is.
It's your fault.
But I don't think it's- I think
it's
it's
your
natural-
fault because it's natural for you to want to make your kid the life of your kids easier.
Yeah.
We don't know where to put a limit on that.
Well, okay, so are you familiar with the quote? So hard times make tough men make easy times make soft men make hard times. Have you ever heard of that? Or
I've
along
heard
those
like a
lines?
variation of that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is that's the cycle, right? Like when things are too easy, everyone gets soft. Soft men create, or soft men as an example in this term, men and women.
Yeah.
Soft people create hard
He's a
times.
feminist. That's what you. That's why you're trying.
I am.
You're a feminist.
And men and women, okay? Yes,
and,
fine.
and women. Yeah,
It's-
I get it.
all right?
I get where you're getting at.
Yes,
Yeah.
strong, independent women, okay?
Yes.
So, but I think that's just the natural, and then it's just like this vicious cycle that it's just gonna happen irregardless of things. And I just think it's always happened. And if you look at just kind of,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
right? It happened to the Romans. It's happened to every empire before.
I think
the next.
good times you want to keep. I will say that after every cycle, things have gotten better. Every cycle, even the worst time, like
It's better than
is better than the previous worst time.
Right,
Right.
like
It's like the
bubonic
stock
plague
market.
is- yeah.
Right. It's
Right.
it might crash, but
Yeah.
it's not as bad as it was years ago. And a good another quote I heard was like, I would rather be poor now than a king 150 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because of the society has
Because
changed
you have
so
the
much.
internet. Back then, you,
Right?
like, you didn't even
The
have toilet
poorest
paper. You could
person
be
now has more things, more power, more everything compared to the biggest king 150 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Right? But, and this is a big but, and I just remembered this today after watching a YouTube channel. I forget the YouTube channel, but there's an MIT was been making predictions about the future.
Yeah.
Making models and stuff, and they predict societal collapse by 2040, right? And they're saying that things might change, and so far their models, their predictions have been keeping true. And I don't know the details enough to like tell you like how they mathematically determine things, and the human condition's all complicated. But so far their predictions are more or less keeping consistent.
Okay.
Right? And they're saying that it may be better to be a poor person now than a rich person in 20 years.
Oh, that's going to reverse.
That's the trend that they're
reverse.
seeing. Like we may be seeing that.
Is it though? They've been saying the world's going to end. It was supposed to end in 2012. It was going to end in 2020 or 2000. Y2K. It's supposed to end like 30 times in the last.
Oh no, I agree with
30
that
years.
100%. I don't. It might be true in the sense that things might get difficult in the next 20 years. I don't think it's going to stay that way. I think they might be measuring the decline, that the hard times are coming, but the hard times don't stay forever.
And is that quantifiable as well?
And exactly. It's
You know
hard
what
to quantify. It's hard to measure.
Yeah.
There's so many different variables, and they're
Yeah.
playing with like macro level things. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with that kind of thinking, but it always has like that asterisk. Like
Right.
you can't really know.
But I think when you look at most of the think tank people, right? I don't want to quote them, but they all say the same thing. It's never. This is the best time to be a human on Earth in the history
Yeah.
of humanity. Like it's never been this good.
I agree, but unfortunately, people don't see that. You know, like the idea that there's more crime going on right now, like we're not safe. This is a very popular talking point.
In New York specifically. Yeah.
Especially because we live
Yeah.
in New York. People are like, "Oh, New York is not safe." I'm like, no.
It's better than it was in the late 70s and 80s. Like
or the 90s. We grew up in the 90s here.
yeah, Times Square in the 90s was horrific.
Yeah, right?
Right.
And I can see areas that I'm like, okay, this is not as good as it was maybe 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Right.
But
I still think it's trending upward.
I still
Right.
think it's trending
It-
upward.
it-
And
it
they
just
like
does this.
and
It's
like
not-
especially because there's always people with political agendas, especially with they're like, oh, the immigrants are coming. I literally had this argument with my parents today, and they were like, I don't want to hear it. I'm pointing at them. They're off camera. I'm accusing them right now. I'm gonna get spanked for it later. But things are getting better. New York, I still think on average is better than it's ever been, even with our shitty political system. Sometimes we have a
Maybe
really
not
bad-
better than 6 years ago, but better than definitely 20 years ago, I would say.
better
And
than 20
I
years
think,
ago.
I think it's getting better than it was 2 years ago, let's say.
Yeah, I mean that's
post-COVID is probably the worst. it's ever been.
post COVID. Yeah,
Right.
the COVID era, but that's an outlier, right?
Right, but
Like,
by all metrics, that's
it
how
did dip. It did
yeah,
dip during
Right.
COVID for a lot of reasons. Crime wasn't one of them. Crime wasn't the reason things dipped. I mean,
No,
the whole world dipped.
Correct, but crime
Right.
was
Although I still love
a
it.
side effect of that.
It was a side effect of that,
sure.
right? So, but people are have this they're like indoctrinated to believe like New York is not safe and all this stuff. Whether it's a political reason because you're anti-immigrant or anti any of the alphabet letters, or anti left-leaning political ideology, and I don't really think of New
You
York
think that-
City
that's-
as
you think
a
that's what it is?
leftist
I don't. I think that at least with the immigrant issue, and this happens continuously, right? There's the pattern that repeats itself. You have a wave of immigrants, you know, they assimilate, and then they are prejudiced towards the next wave of immigrants.
I was saying that today.
That's what we do.
Can we stop doing that though?
But it's
why
fun.
did the Irish do that?
Because it's fun to make fun of Italian people. Because they
no. The Italians started doing that with the immigrants that came later,
That's
right?
Fine, okay, fine. Because it's,
I mean,
it's
we
like,
all know it's
like
racist
when you join
Italians.
when you join a sorority, you always haze the next. You got to toughen them up. You know, not like good old fashioned racism to toughen you up.
You don't think they're toughened up enough?
No, okay. On all seriousness, right? Okay. There is also a part of that like we said continuously, and I don't know if this microphone's even lower than it's been, but I feel like it's getting.
I can hear you.
So good. It's so good.
You're good.
All right.
You're good.
And this is undoubtedly, and then the newer generations never want to say this. There's certain things that we improve on, but there's certain things that it's not all improvements, right? The toughness aspect, I think every generation just gets a little less right now, at least for the last, I would say, modern times.
Do you think the immigrants that are coming in now less tough than the immigrants before?
100%.
You think so?
Yes. I think now because now there's rules. There's things that you could do to immigrants in the 80s that you really can't get away with nowadays.
Yeah, rape and murder are typically frowned upon.
Yeah, but like blatant slavery, right?
Okay. Yeah, slavery is frowned upon.
Frowned upon now, right?
Yeah.
In the 80s.
Like flat out like robbery and blackmail of like, oh, you're an immigrant, you're going to work here, otherwise I'm going to call la migra.
Correct.
Right?
And they would have like an entire factory of these people, right?
Yes.
That was a very common thing when like our parents got here.
Yeah.
Like that was.
Yes.
It probably still does happen today, but definitely to a lesser extent than it probably was before. Because you would hear about it more often.
So let's take a break, and let's talk about that more.
Okay.
Wait, we're gonna cut to a commercial break. Today's episode was brought to you by systemic racism. It never goes away.
I want a jingle. Systemic.
But I was there. I did it.
I was there.
Learning Curve Podcast.
All right. So welcome back. Where we left off was systemic racism, and Damien thinking that the current batch of immigrants is weaker than the former batch of immigrants. And then my mom backing you up.
Yeah, no,
in between the break. My mom was like literally like, Damien's right. He was too, and I carried him over.
Yeah. Shout out to Mom's mom. She's the best.
Moms.
Love her.
I lost this argument. Like I can't. Once my mom got involved, I lost
because I don't know. Okay, we could objectively, honestly, there's a new set of issues for every generation has a new set of issues, but they are, I believe, objectively, as life gets better, still not to make them, they're not any less important because your reality is a product of what you're exposed to. So it doesn't diminish your fight, right?
Right.
But it is objectively easier than the previous generation. And as much as we don't want to admit that, it could be an ego thing. I'm still just as tough. You're not. Objectively,
Look, that's a hard thing. Measuring, that's like trying to. It's almost like that's an argument nobody can win.
Right. It becomes
like who had it
the
worse,
oppression Olympics,
right?
Yeah.
The oppression Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I had it worse. I can't. Like, we all experience badness on a very subjective level.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Our traumas are like. We could say that person's trauma is objectively worse as a third-party perspective, but if you're the one living through it,
no, it's still serious.
That's a hard thing. But
if we are going to agree that this is the best time to ever be a human in the history of humanity, then we're also going to agree that that also comes with a certain level of ease that did not exist in previous generations.
I'll say that.
I
think it's. Because I think we both agree that things tend to be in like repeating patterns. So we're late stage immigrants, right?
I'm the son. I'm the first generation of an immigrant.
You're a first generation.
Right.
I'm a 0.5 generation.
Correct.
Right. So we come with certain advantages now with time. Time gives us advantages.
Yes.
That these new batch of immigrants, these Gen Zero, Generation Zero immigrants that are coming in, are dealing with now. And I remember the stuff that we had to go through, right? Like the abject poverty, like dealing with money. our parents didn't know how to deal with money at all.
Correct.
Your parents declared bankruptcy like 5 times.
6.
Oh,
I don't
6.
think I don't think legally you could do it any more than that. I don't know if I'm
You
allowed to
don't
say
think
that
you
on
could
the
do that?
podcast. Yeah.
That's I don't know how my mom, I know she did it at least once.
Yeah.
So
I think I also say
like
that, but okay.
because when you're an immigrant
Okay.
coming to this country, what are you? You're typically poor, and I'm not gonna say uneducated, but undereducated
And financially, mostly illiterate.
financially
I think that's
illiterate,
across
right?
the board.
Financially
Because if you don't
illiterate.
have money, you don't know what to do with it. That's like the biggest thing, right? And people take that for granted, no understanding what that, if
100%.
Right.
I had to learn that the hard way. You know, I nearly declared bankruptcy.
yeah. So I had declared bankruptcy.
You declared bankruptcy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's unheard of. If you grew up here and you're like you declared bankruptcy, that's like I think for most Americans that's not the norm.
No, that's not. No,
That's not the
definitely
norm.
not.
And
I did it at a young age too, which was
and we
nuts.
did it. I think we did it almost ballsy. Like the way we got into debt and nearly got bankrupted was like we went head in simply because we're like, hey, credit card.
But
This is unlimited money.
Let me just kind of circle back to the generation, and I think that a lot of immigrants from the previous generation, your parents, my parents included, they'll have an issue with the Gen Zero immigrant, and I think the issue there is it comes from not a racist perspective, maybe a little bit. I think
Venezuelan and my family's Colombian. It's definitely some kind of racism there.
It's something there, right?
Nationalism.
Why
whatever.
do they? Why is there? Okay, you said it. The Venezuelans right now. That's like the hot button issue, right? Everybody's the Venezuelans.
yeah.
The Venezuelans. It's not all, but there is a sub. It's always the same issue. It's a subsect of the general population that creates this stereotype. And the
Right.
stereotype of Venezuelan is what? They want everything for free. They don't want to work right now. It's the migrant issue, right? You're taking advantage of the system. They're bringing in criminals. It's the same talking.
It's the same talking points. Yeah,
Right.
literally nothing has changed. And yes, those people exist. Again, Colombian. All right. What was the biggest talking point? Cocaine.
Yeah.
Pablo Escobar, the whole stuff.
Right.
So I heard it. Right.
Right.
And yes, 100%. We have to keep the bad stuff in check, and we can't give them a blank check. I don't think they ever gotten a blank check.
But I don't think they're getting a blank check. I think when you combine that issue with the other stereotype, which I don't know if it's necessarily a stereotype because of the younger generation, this generation, in terms of the workforce, and I'm not talking about all the progress that I love this generation in terms of social progress and just kind of the entrepreneurial
I think that's more
spirit.
of an American thing. I don't know if that's really.
Oh, that's the other.
Atlantic
Yes,
thing.
100%.
Yeah.
That my opinion is very American centric, which is another issue that we have. Right, we look at everything through an American lens. But in America, the issue with the younger generation, I think Danielle will tell you the same thing. In our workplace, we work in similar areas. You'll see a trend with the younger generation. It's just a poor education on how to work in a job environment. They're just not good employees. They don't know how to work.
How many undocumented people have you worked with in the last?
I mean,
few years?
I work in the food industry a lot, and I'm exposed to catering. So I think
So have you noticed? Because I'll notice.
I think the immigrants work better, still better than the American.
the American born.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They know. They
Right.
know. They're still not as good as, let's say, like, for example, I always say, and not to be discriminatory, I love working with Mexicans. I will take a Mexican crew any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
They work hard.
Right.
They know how to just kind of get things done. They will, and not to say they don't complain. They'll complain afterwards. But when it's time to get down, all right, guys, focus now. Time to work.
Right, and this goes to what we were talking about earlier. The harder your life is, the more grit you have, right?
Oh,
If you're, right? So,
Yeah.
right, and I guess what sits wrong with me
I can't hire.
is because as a former immigrant, and okay, I can toot my own horn and be like, okay, it was a little bit more difficult for me, right? And it was even more difficult for my parents.
Yep.
I don't make too many distinctions between the different levels. So for me,
But what is your
I'm not-
exposure to them? I mean, you're working in a field where you don't have that many. You don't work in a labor-intensive field.
No, I don't work in a labor-intensive field. For
You know?
me, it's more personal. For me, it's like I didn't like when people were talking shit about. That's the thing. I remember when people were talking the same talking points, talking shit about me, denigrating me, all this other shit. Like
Yeah.
that was the common thing. And then me seeing it, like I don't care about the Americans that do it. Like they've been doing that shit forever.
You just
They've
don't want to
been
be.
shitheads.
You don't want to be.
I get really like angry when I hear other Latinos.
Well, this is
do
the thing.
that shit.
But this
like come on, like, and they're like, no,
But is it
it's
a problem
different.
when
I'm
it's
like,
true,
I'm
though?
like, you ain't special, especially from people who I know. For example, I'm not gonna name names,
Okay.
but I've had family who aren't 0.5 immigrants, and we were just making fun of me about it. They're first generation like you. Talking about like if you were born here
yeah.
and you have shit that these immigrants don't have right now, and you're talking shitty about them.
Right.
When I'm like, no, they got more. They're a better, harder worker than you, and you're trying to shit on them. That's where I take issue with it. Like
I see where you're coming from.
Like,
It's a different.
There's got to be a little bit of humanity. Criticism is 100% valid, 100%. And then, and I guess the
Of course, it has to come from humanity.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with it. But
Right,
I'm
right.
saying that even those people that do, I know young people that work. Like, I'll tell you one thing. At least in my particular industry, everybody that I've hired under the age of 25 usually makes it about 2 months with us, and then that's it. That's
Okay.
as far as they go, right?
That sounds about right.
The ones that do make it past that point,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very uncomfortable industry. Long hours. The young people that do have a great work ethic, they say that about their peers. Like, yeah, my generation, it's like that. And it's just, I don't know if that's a trend, but that's what I'm seeing. At least in labor-intensive fields, nobody wants to do labor-intensive fields. I get that, but there was a certain level of pride that they took in their work that is just not existent anymore.
Learning Curve Podcast.
I get that. But there's a certain thing with the new generation, and in a way with the new immigrants, it's the same thing. It's this idea that they're too good to do this. I'm too good for this.
Okay,
and then
yeah, no,
everybody's
that's-
looking
that's
at them,
very-
and it's like,
that's-
wait, you're too good? Like we all did it. How are you too good?
Oh, I
good?
agree with that. And
That's
I think,
beneath me. I
I
can't
think
do that.
what ends up happening, and this is what just judging from this conversation that we're having, I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Right. On the general premise of it, like we simply put, like stop being fucking lazy. We don't care. I don't care if you're an immigrant, native born. Like, just don't fucking be lazy. The problem, or at least the thing that I observe, from
Is it
people-
lazy,
and I don't,
or is
and I-
it just don't
but
be entitled?
Let me finish the thought. I don't see it with you, and I don't see it with Daniel and stuff like that. And I know you guys pretty well. But when I hear it, a lot of times from other sources, I hear it coming from a place of like, I'm better than you. You're coming from a place of like, no, we all did it.
Yes.
Pay your dues. We're coming from a place of pay your dues. But a lot of times, especially when you hear from Americans who never fucking struggled at all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're coming from a place of, I'm better than you. You owe me this. And that's where I take issue with it.
I get what you're
And
saying.
I think understanding that distinction, where are you coming from? Okay, you're criticizing. Where are you coming from?
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to do. Because one makes you, hey dude, get it together, and the other one is, oh, I'm better than you. Oh,
Right. But
like,
it can come from both ends. I get that, and we have to be very aware.
and we
of
have to be
doing
very aware of that. Yeah.
But like, I'll see people, these guys right here, for example, right? You guys are under 30, right? Yeah, young, right? They're doing something that they
They're under
enjoy
30.
doing.
I'm gonna talk about
They look young, but I'm saying,
We're gonna talk about the Dominicans that are helping us today.
perfect example, right? You can't just say all Venezuelans, because all Dominicans, all
Right, right.
Colombians. It's never that, right? Because you'll see like, oh, they're working hard. They're working on their craft. They're doing something, right?
Yeah.
But then you could see the same person. You could see them, and then you could see some other Dominican guys like, nah, I can't do that, man. Like, if I'm not making $700 a day, I'm not showing up. I've hired guys where I was like, I'm sweeping, and I'm like cleaning, and what? It's like, oh, I gotta clean. Bro, I'm doing it. You're not gonna. I hired you, and you're like, I don't do that. And I was like, nah, that doesn't work that way.
Okay.
That doesn't work that way.
No, I.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's coming from a place of like, it's like the middle. You have to kind of.
But also, like, I know you. I know you're not a taskmaster. You're pretty easygoing.
Yeah.
And you forgive a lot of shit. So for them to cross that boundary with you is disrespectful, because you give people so much fucking leeway.
A lot.
A lot
But
of
I think
leeway.
it's this prevailing thing, at least with this generation, because it's the generation of OnlyFans, it's the generation of PPP loans, it's the generation like
But
nobody wants to learn to be good at something. They see somebody who's good at something, right?
But
like
I
say
don't,
that, yeah,
I
like
don't, that's not but that's not specifically a immigrant thing. That's,
No.
That's the.
It's not.
But
And I think it's more prevalent now. What I would call like the scammer mentality. Everybody wants to fucking.
I want to go there because how about when you say that it's disrespectful, but how about when they don't even notice? They don't. You got my point?
No,
They're not aware that they're doing it.
That's
Exactly.
the scammer mentality. Culture in
Culture,
general,
right.
the culture, and this is across like different cultures, not just American or Latin or European or whatever. There's this idea that I need to make it. I need to get rich quick. The idea I need to get rich quick. It's more prevalent now than ever.
Yeah.
We went through our own get rich quick phase, and then we learned that we have to do things the hard way.
Yeah.
Right. But I think more than ever, I see younger people of every stripe adopting a scammer mentality about I'm going to make it with as little effort as possible.
You know, I don't know if it's a scammer mentality. I think it's like, I'm just using you guys off camera as an example again, right? You guys, you're in.
I just
I'm
want to
guessing you're in
remind people
video,
that today's
audio, video,
episode was
you're
brought by
right?
systemic racism.
Right. No, but I'm saying they're off camera.
Yeah.
They're putting in the work to learn to get good at something, right?
Right.
Obviously, there's a client or whatever it is. Eventually, they'll have their own studio. Eventually, they'll have multiple studios, whatever it is, right?
yeah.
As they progress in their career.
They're
But
paying their dues.
It's not. I don't think it's paying dues. It's just learning, like understanding that.
That's called paying dues.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Right.
What do
there's
you
this
do when you
thing-
go to school? You pay your dues.
Correct.
And they're learning, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you pay your dues.
Or they're a client, whatever. Eventually, I'll have this conversation with them in 15 years, and they're going to be making $200,000 a year in AV, multiple studios, whatever it is, right? They didn't just get to that point in 15 years. I can't have this conversation with them.
No,
15 years
but
from
I
now.
wouldn't be surprised if
They're a product of all the work that they've put in.
But
And these guys are showing up because their parents are telling them, like they see something and their brain is not clicking that. They see the end product. I had a kid, for example, I'm going to use one at work, right? Shows up at work and he's like, oh, why are you getting paid this much? And I'm like, it's his second week on the job. And I'm like,
why is who getting paid this much? Like another employee who's been there longer?
Yes, who's been there
Oh, and
9
he's like,
years.
I need to get paid as much as that guy?
Correct, right?
Okay.
Like our entry pay. I don't want to go into the details, but whatever, right? And I'm like, well, you don't know what you're doing yet. I was like, do you know how to wire a system? No. I was like, do you know what program these lights work on? No. I was like, do you know how to load a truck? No. I was like, do you know how to load a hand truck? Do you know how to use a ratchet strap? No. Okay. There's the answer to your question. Like, why did I need to tell you that? Because you came in thinking that, like, in this industry, they make this much,
Right.
but you are not...
And again, we're shitting on younger people, and I think we're forgetting the very crucial maturity. Like, that's just a falta of madurar. They're younger, right?
But not all of them, though. Why
Not all of them. Not all. And some people never mature.
Okay,
Some
but why
people
do some
never
people...
mature.
Right. But what I'm saying is, why is there... It's clearly not all the young people. It's clearly not all the immigrants.
Right.
But that disparity, it used to be some... Feels like it's a lot more than it used to be.
I don't know if that feels... For me, it doesn't feel like a lot more. It feels... What does feel like a lot more is scammer culture. I want to scam. I want things quick. I want things easy.
I'm going off camera to Danielle one time. Danielle, does it feel like it's more to you?
I don't think so.
No? You think it's always been the same?
I won one.
There you go. Okay, good.
Okay, but I think it's more or less the same. And as these kids mature and go into older age, I mean, not to throw my younger brother under the bus, my younger brother had maturity issues much when he was in his 20s. Now that he's approaching his 30s, much more different person, much more able to take grit, right? And I think that's part of the process of growing up. I think you and me went through a similar
100%.
phase, right? We
100%.
had to learn things the hard way. We definitely had a phase of, how do we get rich quick? We tried to collect, comic books or cards or some shit?
Yeah, it was a bunch of things.
A bunch of things.
Yeah.
And none of it worked out, but we all swore we were going to make, although, fun fact, we did own a Charizard card. We owned a first edition Charizard card.
Which would have been worth
so
like
if we
$10,000.
were
I don't know if
actually,
that happened to you guys. I remember my brother when he told me like, "Oh, Daniel, remember when we was poor?" I know, like, I don't get it. What do you mean?
what do you mean? Remember, I'm so poor.
I'm
What are you
still-
talking?
Yeah, same thing. And I learned something specifically from a mentor of mine that I learned later in life. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I want this business. He said I could hand you my business today. and this is the truth. You wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to. I could give you everything I own. First of all, I could give you everything I own,
agree
and
with that.
I would then
100%.
be. I could give you everything I own, and you would not be able to handle it. One, he was very honest. Yet, and I would gain everything back eventually anyway, because I already have the network. I know how to make $1 million. I know.
Yeah.
And he goes, I could start at zero today, and I guarantee you, a year from now, I'm going to be right back here. Right. But I can hand this already made to you, and just the level of stress and the things in you're just not ready for.
You're not ready for it. Yeah.
And then I thought about it. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, fuck, get the fuck out of here, bro. I can't handle a Bentley. And then I looked at his. And then as I kind of progressed, right, the level of with finance, there's a level of stress that you need to be prepared for, and it's truth. I was not, and I could not have.
No, I agree with that, and I see it a lot with young people who are like, I'm going to start a business and make it rich, right? Hell or high water. You have a business now. You survived enough to make a business work.
By this, like the skin
that.
of, yeah.
But you also know, and not a lot of people know this, I had my own business.
Yeah.
I had several of my own businesses, and I tried several different things, including a clothing line, tech support,
Correct.
corporate tech support,
Yep.
making websites, trying to sell business. Like, I tried a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I did not have the maturity level to make any of that work. I can make it work now if I put myself to it.
Correct.
But I know myself better now, and I only invest my time to make things that I know I can commit to, deliver, and be consistent with.
But you're also at a
'Cause
point in your
those
life
are key-
where you
key.
understand, do you like telling yourself, do you really want that? Like, no, I enjoy, I don't. And that's the same thing I say to myself now. It's like, do you really? You think you want it, but do you
think
really?
you want it. You want, and this happens a lot with like younger kids who are like, I want to be famous. Do you really want? Because like,
No, you just want to go to the club.
no,
and
you
pop
just want to go to the club. You just want the money, right?
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
And I remember when I used to do tech support. Fucking, I hate tech support. I don't want to fix your computer. Don't call me to fix your computer. I don't ever want to touch anybody else's computer to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? But I did it because I knew how to do it. I can make money doing it. And I basically sold myself. But I wasn't able to deliver consistently. I wasn't able to put in the other parts of it, the sales aspect of it, the marketing aspect of it. There was so much there.
But the thing is nowadays, and just to piggyback off and to kind of wrap it up, right? We're in a culture of TikTok, Instagram, where all of their reels are like, start your own business, but these super successful guys, right? You know, what they don't tell you is that it works for some, but the people that are digesting that and then thinking that that's for them, they only show you it. Like, I love Mark Cuban. I think he's awesome.
Oh,
I love Mark Cuban.
Me
right?
too. That's all.
You know what the problem with Mark Cuban is, though?
What?
You see Mark Cuban as the Shark Tank guy, as the fun Dallas Maverick owner, as the guy who tells other rich dudes to fuck off, which is super fun. Everybody loves that. I love that. You love that. It's great.
I mean,
But-
not too much, but I do respect Mark Cuban. Yeah.
Okay. But, I'm just using that as an example that he's just, generally, people love Mark Cuban. He's not like the hated guy, right?
Yeah.
He never like really goes deep into the 90-hour week and the living out of his car thing, and then like explaining it to you that like it's almost a footnote in his story.
Yeah.
But he doesn't explain it that it was years.
Let me put
Years
it
like that,
really
yeah.
easy. They just have time to showing up, but not to use it, not to enjoying it.
They're not enjoying their like they don't explain to you that he's working all the time till today. Like he's not in. Sometimes he'll enjoy these things.
Right. Part of it is like, and I experience this right now. I have a job. I have a regular 9 to 5.
Yep.
I wouldn't tell people that I don't hate. I like the effort I put into my job is not effort. Especially, that's why it's so important for you to do something you actually like.
Yes. Super important.
Because then the hours you have to put in, if you don't like it, if you're just there for the money, you cannot put what needs to be done.
Correct.
And I think what we're getting to, and I think this, but to wrap it up, I think the one thing we can all agree with that is pervasive at that stage of life when you're young, you all fucking think you're special. You ain't special.
No, you have to learn to be
You
special.
have to learn to do something
And get special.
deliver it consistently, and then maybe
You'll be special.
No, maybe you make some money.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
you
at
make
the
some
very
money.
least, yeah.
You're never gonna be special because fundamentally for me, you ain't shit. I ain't shit.
Right.
None
You have
of
to
us
learn.
are
You have to be.
Mark
You're not
Cuban-
inherently valuable. You need to build your own value.
or you need to.
You're inherently valuable to your mom and dad.
You're inherently valuable in like
Cosmic
human
sense.
sense.
Yes, okay,
In a
great.
human sense, right?
Yeah.
But if in the sense of monetary value, you ain't shit. And if for me, my personal thing is I ain't never shit.
You should always think that way.
I should, because that's what keeps me hungry. Because I'm always, and not to prove it to somebody else, not because I want to show other people I have money.
Right.
I want to show to myself I can do more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
In conclusion, I wish.
You and me and Daniel, none of us want to stay stagnant.
No.
But I'm not competing against anybody.
No,
I'm competing
definitely
against
not.
myself.
Correct. And
I
want,
do that shit for me.
And I wish that I could talk to my younger self today, where I am now, almost 40 now.
That happened to me.
Right. I wish that I could tell myself one thing, right? And that is that it really, you need to put in, nothing is easy, and you can do things, correct? But you need to pace yourself, and you need to learn the steps to build to something else. You know, you can't just jump into something and expect to get you look at the end result and I want to get there. That shouldn't be you shouldn't set your goals based on those things.
Yeah.
You should be real. How do I get that? Okay, now is that really your goal?
Yeah.
And map that out. That I wish I could explain that to myself.
It's that's a hard concept.
It's so difficult.
It's hard. I can't explain that to a young person.
No.
That the daily grind of what it really takes.
And
because you're so focused, you're so what is it? Outcome focused. Thinking
Super.
about the end goal.
extremely so.
Right?
Yep.
And I think we're in a position. We're stable. We're good.
Yeah, but it's you know what it was? It was the details. Explaining to the younger people the details. It's going to be the details. It's going to be the consistency. It's going to be, for me, for example, just to wrap up, right?
Go ahead.
You know, when I got into it, it was the allure of you own something, you're going to be able to come in when you want. You know, guess what? No. You know, and the truth is that whole thing where these people you might get super lucky and you might make it, quote unquote, whatever that is to you, in a year, a couple months. More than likely, you are going to be penniless at some point if you try to go on this route, and be very aware that that's super common. The amount of people that I know that ended up living out of the car, lost multiple businesses, bankruptcies, lost marriages for this route. Understand that that's the road you're going down if you want to go this entrepreneurial route. Very real. There's more of a chance that happens than you turn into Mark Cuban.
Yeah. Unless you were already born with money.
Okay. Yes.
Unless
That's
you were
the difference.
already
Okay.
born.
Totally
That's it.
different.
And then finally, the other thing is this whole thing that you're going to be. You know what happens when you finally make it or you have more? You don't have time to. You'll have very little time to enjoy all that stuff. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I went the 9 to 5 route.
Yeah. Forget about Christmas. The amount of times that I've worked on Thanksgiving or Christmas.
I don't see you. I don't see you
Yeah,
at
it's
all
disgusting.
because you have to. Exclusively have to work on weekends.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
And you know what? At this point, you made your bed, and that's what it is. That's the right. I didn't know this when I started. Had I known all that,
Yeah, you might have. Changed.
You know what I mean?
And this was an amazing conversation. I think we really like encompassed the immigrant experience, but also like more importantly, like what it comes down to is like what does it take to succeed in America, no matter your background, unless you're fucking Jaden Smith or whatever, like whoever, like you guys are lucky. And that's why they pissed me off so much because they're like, I did it by myself. Like, no, you
No.
didn't.
No, you did
you
not.
fucking didn't.
No, you did not.
No, you
close.
fucking didn't. Fucking Nepo babies. Jesus shit.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, we're gonna close.
With that, we'll close.
Hold on,
We'll
I want to do
close.
the sponsorship.
We're closing. We're sponsored by.
Yeah, this whole episode's been sponsored
This
by.
whole okay.
This episode has been sponsored by Nepo Babies. Back in 1945, during the Great War, they made genetically modified Nepo babies. And that's about as far as I got down that line.
You tried. You
tried.
got an A for effort.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to fail.
I had to,
All right, guys.
That went through.
Until next time, we'll see you here at the Learning Curve.
All right.
Later.
Learning Curve Podcast.